welcome back to SpellFister Devlog. Today we got episode 2. Last time I focused on 2 specific features, but I figured it would be best if I switched to a monthly update. That way I can hold myself accountable, stay consistent, and go through every system I built through the month. So for the month of July, I was primarily focused on getting a playtest build ready and showcasing my game at events. I also was looking to refactor just a whole bunch of systems in my game due to starting this project back in university when I had no idea good Unity practices. Next, I wanted to focus on a big audio overhaul, so gathering a bunch of new sound effects and making a proper sound manager for my game. The next goal was getting an official soundtrack started for SpellFister and implementing some of those songs in the game. I also wanted to redo my map, so basically just making a cleaner model of the arena. Another goal would be actually having playtests and getting some feedback on features and how I can improve them. And lastly, I wanted to add a new shopkeeper NPC, build out a shop, and also create a dialogue system in SpellFister. So diving a little bit into the playtest build, I set out for a pretty ambitious stack of tasks I wanted to do before I had people playtesting the game. And as you can see, I got through a majority of them. I'm obviously not going to go over all of them, but I will focus on a few. The first being a death sequence and game over screen. I created animations for the camera falling over, the camera blurring, and your camera blinking, which all piece together for a nice little death. I also created a game over screen so your game doesn't just loop back in as soon as you die. Feel free to let me know what kind of stats you would want to see in between runs in the comments. Next up was just some state control bugs. Essentially, you could punch while paused and created a bunch of sound cues, and also you could fire projectiles while waking up. So just pretty simple bugs to knock out. I ended up redoing the game manager anyways later on. The rest of the playtest prep was really just kind of on polish. Just looks bad waking up. And here the torches flicker while turning on, just small things like that. One other just small little feature I added was color-coded upgrade nodes. So, depending on which spell you chose, the nodes are of that corresponding color. Alright, so the next section is a bit boring, so I'm just gonna go through it real quick, but I did a bunch of refactoring. Like I said before, when I started this project, I was new to Unity. So having picked this project back up, I've needed to do a ton of refactoring. This was my monolithic script, Spell Factory. So I refactored the Spell Factory and also the game manager. Refactoring the Spell Factory was a very much needed task to do as I implement more spells. It allowed me to create scriptable objects for all of my spells, including their corresponding upgrades and stats, which is going to be a lifesaver when I start implementing new spells. Alongside this refactor, I also just cleaned up the project a whole bunch, which, I don't know, is very nice on my end of things. So another big refactor I did was the sound management. Before, I had a completely messy sound manager, so I just redid all of that. I have scriptable objects for audio cues now, and my mixers are all set up properly, which allows me to have working sound effects and music sliders, which before they were not. And this kind of leads into my next topic, which is as I mentioned before, I like having ownership over everything in my game. However, I am not a music guy, so shout out to my cousin, Simon Sabjes, for doing the soundtrack for the game. The music he's been making lately is just insanely good, and it's going to become a core element with the jukebox, and I'm very excited to see where that goes. So next, I focused on rebuilding the arena in Blender. The previous version of the map was my first ever Blender project, and as such, it was, a big mess. So I wanted to redo it and have a clean, uniform model. So I spent a solid amount of time redoing that. The rooms are smaller and more aligned with what my vision was, and the arena is a bit bigger, which I think is good for a lot of enemies being spawned in one room. I need to start working on, more specific level design and other kinds of traps and things like that in the room. But for a shell, I think it's looking really, really good. Because I'd redone the map, that means that I had to redo the shop unlock, and I figured a good way to do that in an arena would be to open different gates rather than have a rock crumble. So this is the shop unlock cutscene, and as you can tell, it opens 2 different rooms. Some people were struggling to understand it, so maybe I need to tweak it a bit, but I think it looks good. This is what the arena is looking like, and after the first run, the lights just stay on now, which I think is a good touch, and it's not annoying having to wait for the torches to light every round. So I ended up playtesting the game quite a bit this month at local events and with friends, and I got some solid feedback. One piece of feedback was that people didn't like sprinting, so I sped up the base speed and then I added a dash, as you can see. Another piece of feedback I got was that 1 and 2 were way too hard to press for spells in a fast-paced game. So I added a spell carousel. You can see me setting it up here, and here it is in action. One thing somebody told me is that I should slow down time while they're switching, and I think that's a good idea. Here is a comment I got on my last devlog. I don't know how you found my video, but I appreciate the comment. I will implement eyeballs glowing. For now, I just did like a simple hand hint to indicate which spell you have equipped, but I do plan on doing the eye glowing. So last, we're gonna move on to our NPCs, and this is just a sneak peek into me designing the shopkeeper in A-Sprite. Here is the new shopkeeper in game. I added a whole dialogue system to the game this month using Yarn. I feel like Yarn is a very lightweight way of adding dialogue, which is nice and exactly what I'm looking for. So yeah, I also implemented a entire permanent shop this month. That's really the roguelike element of the game. You buy permanent upgrades in between your runs, and the upgrades are scriptable objects that write to the save data. So these upgrades persist, and it's set up to be really simple for me to implement more in the future. Our other NPC is Gobby, and he is the tutorial goblin. So after your first run, you unlock this little room and he tells you how to play the game. I feel like that way it has you intuitively learn the controls, but also the things you didn't learn, you learn from him. Just as a little bonus, I'm working on a splash screen with like my own logo inspired by Neversoft. This is just a fun little splash screen I'm working on right now. So yeah, that about wraps up this month's devlog. I appreciate you watching. I will be posting episode 3 at the end of August, and one of my goals next month is to set up a Steam page, so I'll be documenting that process. But yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Peace.